Yeah. We get lit, we get fly, we talk stuff, we get high. But to the masses, we just a podcast called Verified. I'm your host. I am JopauL. We are back for another edition with the Verified podcast. And as always, we are brought to you by TMTFunding.info. They are the alternative business solutions guide. When your bank says no, they will say yes. I mean, maybe not, but they probably will. Their logo is when they say no, we say yes. So if you're in the market for business financing and you can't borrow, beg, or steal, you've already asked your parents, you've already asked your friends, you've already, asked every close person that you can. Call my guys at TMTFunding.info. Check them out. Let them know that I sent you. Right now, we got a great show for you. We got basically an amazing individual. We have basically one of the spokespeople for the Jewish rapper community. And if you haven't heard of Kosha Dillz, then you probably are living under a rock. So we're going to go through his whole story. I'm really, really happy that we got him here because I need to just say that song has literally been stuck in my head for days right now, and one right after another. First, it's bring the family home. We got the world saying. I mean, even though because the song was made, it really triggers something, of the atrocities of October 7th. But it really is, a musical soundtrack for the life that we're living. So, without further ado, my friend and your friend, Mr. Kosha Dillz. What up, my brother?
What's going on, bro? How are you?
Yeah, same old shit,
Thanks for
different day.
having me on the pod.
No problem. I had to have you, man. It's like the things that you're doing out there are absolutely tremendous. So, I'd be remiss if I didn't say that, you are, definitely an inspiration for a lot of us out here. So I really
Oh,
appreciate you taking your
thank
time
you.
and sitting down with me and for us to get to know your story because I think people would, really be intrigued by, the stuff that you've been through and all the stuff that you're doing. And it's one thing to see you on social media, but then it's another thing to do a deep dive to really know, who is Kosha Dillz, inside and out. So, I appreciate you taking your time and let's jump right into it.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about yourself, like upbringing, where you were born, what your parents did for a living, how they raised you, did they beat you, did they not, all that good stuff like that. If they did, I'm sorry. I
Yeah.
apologize.
Nah. I'm from New Jersey, Edison, New Jersey. So it's like a little suburb town. Gary Vayner, our famous people are Gary Vaynerchuk, if you're into the hustle. That's but most of the hustlers I learned from were not him. But I come from a very independent work family. My dad had his own business. My brothers had their own businesses. I'm in my own business. And my whole family is Israeli, so everyone was born there. My dad immigrated from Romania, and he was born in Transylvania. So he came to Israel as a teenager, and fleeing communism. I would say that's sort of the Eastern Bloc of back then, and my life was basically surrounded by sports. Soccer and wrestling. And wrestling would say more so, as I did both in high school, but like wrestling took me to college. Uh,
Okay. Now, what type of wrestling? Collegiate wrestling or
yeah,
Greco-Roman
yeah, yeah,
wrestling?
yeah, yeah, yeah. Collegiate
Okay.
wrestling, and I'm a supporter of, SummerSlam and all that, but
Mm.
just, we're collegiate wrestling, freestyle, Greco-Roman in like the off season, but, collegiate wrestling.
Okay.
And wrestled at D1, but a big part of my life, I would say from 18 to 23, was pretty much like covered with a lot of addiction and drug use and drug dealing, and that was sort of like what this like whole different part of me came out.
What was your if you don't mind me asking, what was
Like I was just
your
arrested for selling drugs.
indulgent of choice?
Yeah, I mean, it was everything really, but I was very addicted to like the lifestyle of this thing that. So I was wrestling a little bit in college, and for 2 years, and just the addiction was just overpowered all of it. But a lot of it was, at that time I started rapping and battling in like, sort of New York and Poets Cafe, which is pretty famous poetry cafe in New York. And that was sort of the launching pad for a lot of artists at that time in New York, like of the rap scene.
Mm-hmm.
There was like Immoral Technique. There was, Most Def, Talib, like late '90s. There was Poison Pen, Pac FM. These kind of like names that you would know if you were in New York.
Yeah, like the backpack rapper scene,
Yeah, and
for the most part, like the boom bap, super lyrical, introspective,
yeah,
5%ers. So yeah, no,
yes,
that was a great time in music. It really was. I don't know if we're gonna ever really get back to that time, but
no,
I remember I was at the pot parade. I forgot what year it was, but it was Washington Square Park, and all of a sudden there's a gigantic circle and there's this rapper that nobody knows, and all of a sudden I'm like, that's Mos Def. And he's sitting there and he's kicking a freestyle for like probably 17 minutes. It was the craziest thing that I ever seen. So, if you grew up in New York during the golden time of rap, what a beautiful time to be alive back
Yeah.
then. But
And
fortunately,
that
it's
I sort of came at the end of that time. So like I was in the early 2000s essentially. But my first
okay.
time on stage was 98,
Okay.
like 98 into 99, my senior year of high school. And then
What'd your parents think about you rapping? I'm sorry to like cut you off, but it's like just
no,
because
I
like
think
this is a
it's
great segue, into
yeah,
that. It's
no,
like
I
you're a
think
collegiate wrestler, and then now all of a sudden it's like, hey mom, I'm
well,
rapping now.
at that point I was wanting to we were performing before recording. So like now people record before they perform. And
Mm-hmm.
then we were performing before we record. And I think that made me into a really good performer because I had to go on stage so many times and understand a stage and like a stage is just a different experience. I mean, there's a different experience in so many different levels. It's a practice room and then there's the stage,
And there's the big show.
yeah. So I don't know, like I guess they were okay with it. And then I my dad just wanted me to like get a job, I mean, because I had like started getting arrested in school and then getting arrested and then it was like to stay out of trouble, sort of.
We have the same
Like
story, brother.
yeah, and then like, by the end of it, I mean, it was just all drugs and all that. And then I got sober after my last arrest in college. And then I started going into like inpatient programs and three-quarter houses and then parole and probations. And like this was like a process of like 3 years from like 2002 to 2004. And then, the probations go on till like 2008, 9. But like the journey through there, like when I started getting successful and started like, I got sober and then I figured out how to just start doing shows and booking things and creating music and then releasing music and then getting attention around the music, all while like just doing what I had to do was a really cool process. I had performed with Modest Yahoo essentially like in 2004 and then released a song with him and another rapper in 2006. And
Dope.
once I did that, I was like, yo, Modest Yahoo was like so big at that time, like so big. And I think honestly, he was almost even a little bit less big at certain times, but there was nothing like CDs were a thing and attaching MP3s to emails were a thing. And that was like how there was no like links to streams and stuff like
All
that.
right. And this
I
is
just
like
emailed.
MySpace, SoundCloud era, right?
Yeah. And I just emailed and searched for like and I got more into the Jewish stuff. Like I went to like yeshiva program, studied there. Like, here's $100, live in New York City for 3 weeks. I remember I like paid $100 to live in Manhattan for like 3 weeks. I was like, this is lit.
Okay.
I'm down to study whatever you want me to read. You know what I mean? And then I would just start performing with, multiple groups of people. And then, played at my first Israel parade at like 2007, 2008, like on Fifth Avenue. This is like Israel at 60. This is like 60 years of that. And I was like, wow, my friends had my boy Erez really brought me into like this Jewish music world. He had a label called Shem Speed, and it was like the
Eris,
biggest,
he does the like the fashion with all like
yeah,
with
with
the Jewish merchandise.
yeah,
Yeah, no,
yeah,
he's dope. He's dope.
yeah.
I like him. I like dude.
I've known Erez since the beginning, and he was launching an artist called Y Love, and they were like touring and making they were doing well. Like they were booking shows, touring from everywhere. They were playing in Moscow, playing in Europe, playing in Chicago, just doing these shows. And there was no one else besides Modest Yahoo at this time in like this new budding Jewish music world. It kind of like, because he became so big, people were looking for it. And yeah, and then I just sort of kind of appeared and people saw the name Kosha Dillz and they were like, oh, yo, come play here, and that was it. I was just releasing my music, and then I was doing my club shows and then doing these we call them synagogues. And then we would instead at synagogues where you perform at the synagogue, and then, and then you would just do my regular tour dates. So I was like going to all these towns, playing bars, and then like going to like Jewish organizations and stuff and trying to like recruit people to the shows, and just doing it all by myself, DIY. And then, at this point, my parents were like, stay out of jail. And like, oh, that was, 2006, 2007, 2008,
Yeah,
and
no, your work ethic is phenomenal. Like now, whenever
thank
I have
you.
somebody on the show, I always look for, where do our, paths align? Where can I get some like kind of inside information? Not really dirt, because that's really not what we do here at the Verified Podcast. We're more about like telling the story and praising your achievements rather than like celebrating like any shit that you've ever been through. Yeah, we like controversy, but so and I was gonna have one of our mutual friends that was gonna do a pop up, but unfortunately she was on the road. But Wendy Day from the Rap Coalition sends her best. She said that Kosha Dillz work ethic is like no other she's ever seen, and um, she sends her loves and regards, and she wishes that she could pop in, but she'll probably do it at a later time. So Wendy Day sends her regards, and if
Oh,
anyone
cool.
in the hip hop industry knows who Wendy Day is, she's probably one of the most influential women in hip hop that ever walked the face of this earth. So
Yeah.
just
And one of the most likable people that's like a
such a
champion
sweetheart.
of the underdog. I would say she's a champion of the underdog, and it's paid off. I mean, she's championed many people in the beginning, and she did like early hip hop deals were upwards of millions of dollars, and her new content, I think it's with her husband, is pretty
Pretty
top
dope. Pretty
notch.
dope.
Yeah,
I
pretty
mean,
top
because
notch.
it goes into the stuff that artists really need to know about how they can monetize and what's realistic and what's not. I feel like the misconception is you get a good song and all of a sudden you're gonna make it. And that's what
No,
a lot of these people think. It's like, yo, let's just get lit, let's go viral, and all of a sudden it's gonna make it. Like Wendy only takes on projects for like unless you have $250,000 or more to invest in yourself, like because that's what you're up against. So I like to tell a lot of these artists, because I mentor a lot of artists, that unless you're going to like have some stake in the game, nobody is going to put up their money unless you have already. So
no. I put a lot of money into my stuff, but I figured out how to make money back too, so it's cool. And that's a lot. I would $250,000 is a lot of money, but I don't know, she does that. That's a lot. I don't know anyone who's doing that, but I think nowadays, at least what I learned is if you don't have money, if you don't have $30,000, and you could figure out a new series that you could do on your phone, that could really just, your stuff could just really click, and that's it, and that's kind of that's how I got here. I mean, I really found something that was working with these interviews, and I've been doing things, rapping on the street, became a big thing during the pandemic, which I was doing for years, but I wasn't filming it. I was kind of just doing it as a job. And I was,
mhm.
you know what I mean? I was like, yo, I'm gonna go do this. I'm gonna sell my vinyl and like rap for people around the world, in different cities. So I would go
Yeah,
to a
real
city.
grassroots, like nomad type of promotion.
Yeah,
It's like
yeah,
it's like,
literally,
I
like
mean, like
where
you
in the
like
world is Carmen San
yeah.
Diego versus where's Waldo versus where's Kosha Dillz? Like that's
Kosha Dillz is the ultimate wandering Jew. It's like you never know where he's going to be. He's
yeah.
literally in the diaspora forever. That's it.
Yeah. No, and it's like nothing. Like I want to go to Turkey, like Istanbul has a really good street performing scene. I'm like, oh, that would be really cool to go there and just go and like busk. And I know people, my homie just that I perform with just went there, and he like was playing, all over. And I'm like, dude, this is a great, it's the Orient Express of that region of the world where people are coming from all over, and you're just meeting all these different kinds of people. Or you're in Hollywood and you're on Hollywood Boulevard, and that's happening. And I was, that culminated with me doing something outside the Knicks games a few years ago. And then I had a run in with Fat Joe, and that sort of took off my sort of career, as in like going viral, getting on World Star and Shade Room, and then
Don Cartagena.
yeah, and then getting an opportunity to be on Wild and Out. So that, that was sort of my follow-up. And I do think going viral isn't enough, but you need to have songs that could really resonate with people. As an
Agreed.
artist, I feel like, nowadays, I guess you could have all different kinds of stuff resonate with people, your content and stuff of that nature, but you do have to adapt. I mean, and I'm coming from the MySpace era, it's very difficult.
I mean, one thing I gotta say about your music, which is like, and I'm not just trying to fucking blow smoke up your ass just because you're here and you're my guest, but your music has something that it's very, very reminiscent of like the music that the civil rights generation, fighting for civil rights back in like the late 60s, like it has meaning and it has purpose. And obviously the Watermelon song is more of like, like a fun, a fun song, even though why we have to make songs like that because of the shit that we're going through. But like Bring the Family Home, like it adds value. Like if that's one word that I can, put out there, it adds value to a completely zombie filled world of bullshit music. So it's like that's one thing that the music of today is lacking. Some real feeling, some real emotion, and like, anyone can make a love song and stuff like that. But when it's like a real topic, like that, and I mean, it reminds me of like I think it was Country Joe and the Fish with because it's 1, 2, 3, what are we fighting for? There's a from Woodstock, and it's like a war cry or a battle cry, and it
Yeah.
resonates well, and that song literally has been stuck in my head since the beginning. So thank you.
mean, that the story of that song is like, so for every like conflict that like Israel has gotten in the past, decade, 15 years, I've made songs that like that have sort of just expressed what was happening. And I'd say what the one that was public that was out there was this one in 2014, which was called No More War, and I did it with Erez actually, and he used to I think he still produces under a name called D1, and it was like a lot of like Middle Eastern sampling and stuff, and me and Erez would always flip something. Like we took Bonnaroo, we took all the bands from Bonnaroo, and then he would remix and we made a Bonnarhymes, and it was like, we're always like, I don't know if we were like, we're just doing like a lot of remixes. This is like in the SoundCloud era, and kind of like where you just flip a beat and just rap over it, whatever. We
Before
did
that sound recognition software took effect.
Yeah. I mean, but we were just putting stuff on Bandcamp. I don't even realize, like, I was like, yo, we've had so many projects done, but I do recall we did this thing and we took a tank sample. This guy goes, "No more war," and it was a soldier that was just drumming on this
On the
tank,
tank.
and then we just made it into a beat and flipped it, and it was like a peace song. And obviously everyone's gonna have their force of saying, of course it's on a tank, and that's the juxtaposition. Yes, he's saying no more war, he's on a tank, but I mean things exist, right? So Modest Yahoo had shared that, and I remember like it was a big thing. We got like 15,000 on YouTube, but at that point there was no as technology advances, like so does the content. So when we flipped that, there wasn't Instagram lives and reels and things like this nature, right? And then there was maybe Twitter video, Facebook video. I mean, like I've graduated through all these things of going viral on Twitter, going viral in a news media outlet. And then in this year in 2021, I think I was doing a lot of live streams from rallies, and I noticed how many people jumped in, and I was like, wow, this is like, it's just been this for my entire career since I did an album with this dude C-Rays, and like just having a juxtaposition of Black and Jewish, and I made a Black and Jewish album, really, literally. And this new song on October 7th, I was doing a festival called Thop Fest. It was like Joel Santana, Moral Technique. It was a rap festival. I mean, this is like shout out to my guy 60 East that puts this together. It's like a real hip hop festival.
When you said Thought Fest, I didn't picture a bunch of rabbis, reading the Talmud,
Not Thought Festival. Thop.
Oh, okay. Okay, there you go. Cleans it up. Go ahead.
Yeah, Thop Fest, but it doesn't sound like a bunch of rabbis anyway. Yeah, no, the Hebrew overprints. I don't know what is it. THOP. So like I went to the studio that night, recorded a song, came back, shot the music video. And at this point, Jews are extremely weak. This is October 10th. And I took a shofar. I got like all camoed out. I went in front of like the old New York. I'm very visual with what I want to create physically for an image. And this is sort of, I was inspired. Kosha Dillz brand 2005, like I was pretty much inspired by nonfiction. That was like the nonfiction. If you guys are unaware of who they are, I mean, this is like the first people to kind of use Hebrew lettering and their stuff. And this is sort of like what I wanted to be, like a Jewish gangster. Like,
shout out nonfiction, shout out Ill Bill.
Yeah, Ill Bill, Necro. I mean, that was the image. I mean, even when I was getting high and shit like that, like I remember like, oh yeah, I wanted to be like the Jewish guy in Goodfellas or something of that nature. You wanted to be,
What he got beat up and killed
yeah,
on
but
killing.
like, like I was like the guy that was around all Italians in Jersey. Like that was just who I was at that time. And
Preaching to the choir, my brother.
yeah. And this song, like I remember having the beat with the shofar in the video, and I'm like banging on it, and I'm like going out in the street, and I'm like, I'm gonna shoot this music video, and if I get attacked by someone, I'm gonna slay him with like the shofar, like in Lower East Side. And in my mind, that was gonna happen. But I remember I did an interview at Reuters, like because at this point I did one post and the whole thing went crazy. And I was like, wow, this is not the same. Like the world is literally changed forever after October 7th for me. So when I made the song, I was like, I'm gonna make this song and it's gonna be like, I'm gonna tell people, suck my dick in this song. Like, and I told Roger Waters, suck my dick for the rest of your life. And I was like, and I could barely, because of the Jewish community, you could barely play it like that. Like I just performed for, I don't look at that. I played a song for over 1,000 people at the 6 months thing. And I thought, I was like, yeah, I have to, give the TV edit all the time. And this song though is really what it is, like bring the family home. And I was like, if I could make this, it could just exist without me. Like it could just, and it's so cool to see a song do that with other people that don't even listen to rap music, and it might not be a lot, but there are definitely a lot of people that are listening to it, and each one is listening to it with intent. And we made the interview videos that got 35 million views. The song is at the end of everything, so it's like a little TV show. It's like the bring the family home show, and that is sadly still going on. But for it to be used, it's sort of like utilizing, how do you utilize today's society and today's technology to incorporate a message that is very simple. And mind you, I didn't know.
It's
Bring
the
them
American
home.
version of Am Yisrael Chai. When you think
Yeah.
about it, like it's for the people that don't know the words to Am Yisrael Chai, which is the battle cry song of the millennia. For people that understand Hebrew as well as speak English. For the people that understand English and need something to attach themselves to, Bring the Family Home is that song, my brother. So I mean, I don't. It feels weird to say congratulations, because it's like the reason why you had to make the song really sucks. But you did, and you contributed what you could contribute, which is the soundtrack that we're basically going to have and we're never going to forget because of it. Because when you assimilate an event in history with an actual song and that's not viewed inside a vacuum, it becomes bigger than you, bigger than me, bigger than everything. And like you said, it kind of lives by itself. So
That's
so
it. It's
kudos,
really
my brother. You
cool.
did it.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I'm like, I just, it's interesting to, when you said about civil rights, like I work with an organization called Spill the Honey, which is focused on Black Jewish relations, and I run an event called Solvay, which is soul food and oy vey mixed together, and that kind of came
Okay.
alive after Black Lives Matter movement in like 2020. And basically, my circle, it's like Black friends, Jewish friends, do music. We do music at a show now. We always do it, but now it's sort of under an umbrella of something that stands for something bigger. And I got to work with Clarence Jones, who wrote the Martin Luther King speech. This woman, Dr. Sherry Rogers, out of Detroit, really has been working on this stuff for about 10 years. And my best friend, this dude Flex Matthews, I mean, this Black Christian guy from DC, has been to like every Jewish event with me, and we perform. And it's I never knew growing up outside of New York and like the New York hip hop scene, how separated people are from worlds like Black, Jewish, Spanish. And in New York is such a melting pot. It's
It's
like
worlds
people don't
apart.
have, it's very, not to say it's privileged to live here, but it's a privilege to experience this sort of community that exists, that you could even have the option to exist in. I mean, it doesn't exist in many other cities and facets of the world. where there's a
I,
Jewish
I
guy,
I feel like because
black guy,
of all,
Spanish guy.
because of the melting pot that we live in, I feel like New Yorkers kind of have, you know, I don't want to say a little bit of an advantage because I don't want to like favor us, but I mean I do live from New York, so I'm gonna favor us. So it's like you have all of these different cultures that are all within your grasp, almost like having different pieces of searchable data. Like you have Google here, you have encyclopedia, you have books, you have a library. It's like you have a whole multitude of people that you can basically learn from and gravitate towards. That's why I feel like New Yorkers have a little step up because it's like we've had experience with like every different type of people that are out there. Yeah, you're going to have bigots. Yeah, you're going to have racists. You're going to have jerk offs in every community. But New York, we really are the melting pot of the entire country. You're never going to find this much diversity in one location. So
Yeah,
that's why if you can make it here, you can make it
take it
anywhere.
anywhere.
So what was like the turning point for you where you said, you know what, I need to do something for my people more than I ever have. And that's why you're out on the street and you're interviewing people. So I kind of want to, bring awareness to like your new show and what you're doing. So it's like, what was the methodology behind it? Why, from have you always been doing interviews or, is this just something new that you were like, you know what? I have a voice, I could speak, I know what I'm talking about, and I got the balls to go and talk to, these people and find out, what it is that they're complaining about or what it is that's on their mind.
Well, I think it's, you learn sort of, and one, it's a good question, because people are like, what's the driving point? For the entire year, before the October 7th, I would say really, yeah. I mean, I recorded about 40 to 50 45 songs, I think, 44 songs. And none of it has anything to do with being Jewish and this. And, my name, Rami, is, it's also a Palestinian name. It's an Egyptian name, Lebanese name. So many people have always thought I've been something else, So when I took the name Kosha Dillz, it was like, all right, we're going to identify and say, no, I'm a Jew. I'm not going to. And for a long time growing up, I had switched my name over from Kosher Dill to KD Flow to Kosha Dillz. So there was like a process when I was in the early
Dude,
2000s.
my first name was the Rapping Rabbi. I got you. So,
That's crazy.
bro, and that's how to listen. I mean, not to cut you off, but that's how when I performed at the Apollo Theater, and that's how the woman announced me. She's like, his friends affectionately call him the Rapping Rabbi. I was like, no, they don't. Like, I was like, this is nuts. But
Yeah.
thank God I got a standing ovation. It was cool. But yeah, I was a Rapping Rabbi, so I get it. Kosha Dillz, all
The
good.
the like I love my name, but like I really wanted to develop my like personal stuff. And I'm like, I don't really want to just be some voice for everyone else. I want to like talk about my own life. And this is just, real life music. And I wanted to do that all year. And then after October 7th, I was like, oh, it's big Jew time. I was like, I'm just going all in. And I promised myself this, and I haven't really got to express this. After that happened, I said, I'm going to put my head down. I'm going to start making everything. I don't care who's here when I'm gone. I don't care who's left. Like I'm just going to look up and be like, oh, you guys are here. Perfect. Let's roll. And a lot of people checked out, and they're like, bring the family home. Okay, cool. You're doing this. Then I started going out to rallies, and somebody asked me to go to a rally in LA. And I was in LA at the time, and then I came back. And then I flew back out, and I went to a thing, and I went to an Israel rally, and I was putting up, and I was like, I'm very into the science of stuff for interviews. So I was like, wow, we're sort of documenting this moment in history, right? I'm just like any other social movement, Black Lives Matter, Stop Asian Hate. I've always been sort of out at these things. And even before, dude, Occupy Wall Street, I was just like really into these social movements, right? And I
Not
know it.
necessarily a part of it, but actually like covering it and the science behind it.
Yeah. But I mean, I was definitely like, I got arrested at a Black Lives Matter rally, like in LA. Like it was in LA I mean, that was a really crazy time. that this was different because everyone knew me there. Everyone knows me, in the Jewish world. And I went, and then I thought to myself, all right, I'm going to go do an interview. And then I started interviewing at the Palestine rallies and be like, do you guys need an Israeli perspective, an Israeli American perspective? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, okay, cool. Let's talk. And
Okay.
people were really surprised. And then I saw that they were being taught not to talk to anyone. It was weird. So I was like, that's interesting. You don't want anyone to talk to anyone when they're at a social movement. So you want to control what everyone's experiencing. So I thought, I'm gonna go over here and talk. And then I talked to another woman, and someone
Which is crazy because you're protesting to get the message out there. So here's a guy with a camera, and I'm willing to cover you and broadcast whatever it is that you're talking about, but you're being told not to talk to me.
Yeah.
Okay, continue. I'm sorry.
So I went out there, and this woman just said, like, hey, do you condemn Hamas? And she's like, you're asking the wrong questions. And I'm like, well, I don't know. I'm not saying anything bad about Palestinian people. I just want to know if you condemn the people that killed everyone last week. And she's like, you're asking the wrong questions. And then she walked off the camera, and that got like a million views. And I had never gotten a million. I've gotten like 500,000 views on like my rap stuff. And then I was like, wow. I was like, for real? I'm like, you people like want to see this? And they're like, yo, do this again. It's like, all right. So I went out, and
I wonder what the right question was.
mhm.
I could almost guarantee, it's you if you want to condemn October 7th, then you got to ask why October 7th happened in the first place.
Right. So then, and listen, I'm not going to say, I really like believe if people could come up with because people are taught the information they're taught, and that's the information they have, and then they make the decision, right? So for me, I'm literally speaking wholeheartedly, because when I posted, I had followers of mine that were all at the Nova Festival, and they were sending me videos, and I'm like, yo, this is crazy. I know like people that follow my music were there, and I'm like, I'm like,
It's just kids.
it's
It's just
so
fucking
for me,
kids.
I was like, I'm gonna go and do
Crazy.
another interview. My buddy, I played a show. Someone's like, Coach, could we get you to play? I'm like, 100%. I made this new song, Bring the Family Home. The song is maybe just got out. So I'm like, let's do a fundraiser. And at this point, this is like the second week. And then I met someone there, and he's like, hey, you want to go make some videos? And I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, I don't know, we're going to go up to Columbia University or something like that. And I guess there was a ready protest there. So went out there, and the first person I interviewed was, we tried to get into the school, and we couldn't get in because none of us were students, So the first person that we saw there was this.
Well, that's a good thing that they have security like that. So that's good.
Yeah, I mean, like, I was like, okay, so who's outside? And I was like, oh, I'm like, these people are like wild. So there's one guy, and he was just like spitting all over himself, and he was like pro-Israel dude, and he was just like looked like a mess. And he was like, da, 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 da. And I was like, oh, thanks, And I realized while I was talking to them, I'm like, oh wow, this is I'm using sort of like the improv skills I learned from like Wild and Out stuff, and just comedy, because I've been doing comedy at this point for like a year, and just I'm a freestyle artist, so I'm just like, all right, whatever. And hey, what's up? Can I talk to you? And she's like, sure. And it was the little woman in red, the French woman, and that got like 5 million views. Eventually, I went around the corner. We put up posters. At this point, I was realizing the poster thing was becoming a really big thing. People ripping down the poster. It was a hot topic. And to me, it's like, I don't care if you put up a Palestine poster, any poster. As somebody who put posters up during the Warped Tour era, like I did Vans Warped Tour, right? So, I mean, I'm talking like literally sweat, blood, and tears, and people ripping down posters, and you're like, I don't really care because it's music. I put other posters up. I'm South by Southwest. I put thousands and thousands, tens of thousands of posters up in my lifetime.
Oh, listen, I respect him. One of my closest friends is Shampoo, like the king of street team
team.
marketing. So, like when it comes to posters, like he's literally the king. So I completely understand.
You're putting them up, people ripping them down, put them up, ripping them down. And I put it up, and then somebody came and started hitting me and starting to rip it down. This is like me, this first filming in broad daylight at Columbia. I'm like, bro, what are you, out your mind? And that video became like it became like such like a circus. At this point, I'm like, oh, this is stupid. And then I just posted that video and it got like, you know, 500,000 or a million with TikTok and Instagram. And I'm like, damn. So now I'm like, all right, let's put the song in. Boom, let's put the song and make it like the own thing. And then the next video, it was like just every single one was like, you're like, yo. And then next thing you know, people didn't even know I made music. And they were like, I love the song at the end. What is it? Sort of like your own TV show, like you licensed a song to a TV show and you got your song and your own, but it's your own thing. And it literally happened by mistake. I mean, I'm talking, I never did this, and everything I did, it would be like the equivalent to an industry plant where you're like, what do you mean this girl got 1 million views on each song? And now you're like, yeah, but because of the society of like, there was no one really doing this stuff. And at this point, the man on the street stuff wasn't really just tapped into yet. And now I feel like it's been a little bit, there's all different kinds of stuff happening. But I started doing that. And then we're like, well, let's go to Israel and actually interview hostage families. And I just started to enjoy the idea of, maybe I could talk to people, maybe I could actually change some minds. And people seem to get more radicalized. And like, I'm like, all right, I'm just going to keep making my songs, because that's what always works for me. I create through the pain is my literal motto. This is very painful time for me. I'm going to create through this whole thing. I'm going to make music. I'm going to go perform for soldiers. I'm going to be like Leonard Cohen during, the Yom Kippur War. And, and that's it. So I made Bring the
Do you
Family
think
Home.
do you think you've changed people's minds? I mean, I didn't mean to like cut you right in the middle of the sentence, but you said something that was very, like triggering to me. And it's like, because that's why I do what I do. It just so happens I know all this history about, the Jews and what we've been through. So I try to educate people because, it's something that we don't really talk about. So do you think that you've changed people's minds? Like how many friends have unfollowed you or, said some just wild shit that you're just like, wow. Like I did not realize that you hate Jews so much.
I'll drop right there. I probably lost about, I don't know, 30,000 followers, but I've also gained a lot of people too, because but a lot of those people kind of knew who I was, maybe through the peripheral of like, oh yeah, I know Kosha, I heard it, and then they became all in. Because they started, once you look at one video, then they all pop up. But I think I don't change people's minds, but I do plant seeds in them, and I do empower other people that feel similar to me. But if you look at my track record revolving Israel and Jewish life, I've been getting unfollowed and sort of pushed out of like cool circles for mad long. But it's like, I've never been like as big as Modest Yahoo or that, but I've definitely made an impact in hip hop. Surely. Like I was in the BET cypher with RZA wearing a yarmulke and rapping in Hebrew with Old Dirty Bastard's son. And that was during the year of Childish Gambino. And I was on BET next to Kendrick Lamar. And like, I played Coachella and performed in Hebrew. And I was in front row at Kanye's thing. And the year before I had dissed Kanye. And anytime there's an anti-Semitic, and this is the thing, I don't think I change people's minds, but Jewish people feel stronger that I exist because they're like, they need someone to go tell someone to go fuck themselves respectfully. And even if it doesn't work.
You're the respectfully one. I'm the they need to say fuck you in a disrespectful manner. And that's where I come in.
And yeah. And I try to do all of it because ultimately even existing is a disrespect to the core value of what other people, and to educate people. Like Israelis don't understand what American Jews in the diaspora go through, and American Jews don't understand what's going on in Israel. And to really understand the grasp of how a war shapes the like world, it was very important for me that I've been in Israel multiple times since this war started, and then here, and understanding the streets and what's going on there, because most of the people there really don't grasp what it was like. They're very liberal in Tel Aviv and just kind of being like, damn, like this is happening. And I'm like, yes. But just back to the impact, and like I specifically made a couple kinds of songs to like cover every spectrum. So not that I changed other people's minds, but like I made a song called Bring the Family Home, advocating for the hostages. I made a song called Ceasefire, which wasn't as big because I honestly pushed the word ceasefire has pushed off many people, but the
Yeah,
hook goes,
and Susan Sarandon was #1 for. I don't know if you were going to be able to knock her out. She had Ceasefire now. No,
yeah,
pretty riveting song. But then the remix with Rappaport killed it. So yeah,
yeah.
your Ceasefire
The
song
song
was never going to see the
Ceasefire,
light.
my song Ceasefire one, it's one of my doper songs I really made, but it's like, you want to
Oh, I love it.
ceasefire, please get the facts for peace. You want to ceasefire, please get the facts for me. Problems, I'm working on it. Solutions, think I got it. Um, Weapons down and no profit, but first release the hostage. So it's basically, you got to get to the end to understand the word in the beginning. And it's just single proof that most people check out before you get to the end, because the level of dopeness in that song is just basically, yeah, like ceasefire, just, you guys should have give us back the hostages and ceasefire, easy peasy, bye, hello, back to normal. But because there's so much money around media and this and that, it's not going to happen. That's the whole point of the song. I knew it wasn't going to pop off, but it's performing well in streaming, so I'm happy about that. And I thought maybe I'll get some different clicks of people looking up that, and then they would cross over, obviously. So there was multiple signs to it. The song Watermelon was basically just capping on, like, you guys, like, listen, I've been rapping long enough that, like, understanding watermelon is a sign of Palestinian resistance and celebration. And also, like, watermelon's like a huge thing in Israel. Like, it's a huge thing. And it's almost like, you got the watermelon, we have the sabra. We're there. I once like attended a screening of a film called The Hummus Wars, where people were fighting over the discovery of hummus. And it's like, we become part of a niche society that focuses on niche things. Like, we could literally, there could be an entire New York Times like expose on like the discovery of hummus, which would have more clicks than like an actual war. It'd be like, who
Now
really invented the
is
sabra
hummus?
fruit?
Is hummus?
Yeah,
Okay, so for people like, oh, I'm
hummus.
like this,
Yeah,
like, is that
hummus,
something I've never heard
hummus.
of?
Yeah.
Okay, okay, so it's pronounced hummus. Okay, got it.
And there's a huge thing on cultural stealing, right? And that's what BDS does: boycott, divestment, sanctions, boycotts, all. Well, we can't associate with your cricket team, because the cricket team for Israel means we're advocating for the fucking enemy and the occupier. I'm like, bitch, it's fucking cricket. Like, fall back. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? So this is sort of like, it's a watermelon, calm down. But also, I do understand it's strong. So it's like playing on that. And you have to understand, the reason why I'm doing this is to create a conversation. It is so the conversation does happen, because at a certain point, we're like, the Jews are like, well, bring them home. And then they're like, ceasefire now, river to the sea, see the river. What? It's like so ridiculous at a point. I'm going to make a song about watermelon and, rip on Mia Khalifa and Bella Hadid, because we care more about celebrities, right? And the celebrities' reactions than the actual like real like task at hand. And there is so much money involved in the creation of media disengagement from like an engagement from like these things, right? Because these people have so many Instagram followers. And I was at the Palestine rally, and I have a line like, you guys have the Macklemore, we'll keep Michael Rappaport. And I'm like, somebody said, is Michael Rappaport even Jewish? And I'm like, well, Macklemore was leading the entire Palestinian like revolution after like learning about it for 3 weeks ago. So at that point, who do we do a disservice to? Because we're also putting our celebrities forward. You're putting your celebrities forward, but this isn't celebrity versus celebrity. This is people to people without Instagram. Like, we're creating an infrastructure of pro-Israel economy, pro-Palestine economy, but there's like no coexistence economy, right? There's no like that should
Right.
not exist.
Well, thank God for for Rudy Rockman, because it's like I feel like he's leading the way with that. And he
Yeah.
said something. I was watching something that he said. Now
Just,
I'm
to come in, but I want to just finish up the songs. So that's why I made Watermelon, and I'll get back to Rudy, because I love Rudy. And I made that song because I knew it would. And honestly, the crazy shit is like a bop. So it's like a hidden bop. It's like, you ever like, this song was really about this, but this was the undertone. And I kind of want to create a song like that in a sort of protest economy, protest culture, war moments of like, there's like a fun song that came out. And if I was in Israel, and like, Harbu Darbu came out as like a war cry in Israel. It's sort of like Givati Achad Shtaim, Golani Chad Shtaim. Like that song came out as a big song, and I was at Gal Galatz looking for all this stuff of like what songs were popular during the wars, Yom Kippur War, 6/8. What was #1 on charts? And the Watermelon song has been like one of my bigger, better, like performing the song is crazy because it's a banger.
It's a bop.
It's a
yo,
bop,
no, she's
exactly.
fire.
The next
Like
song I did,
Watermelon's like,
yeah, exactly.
I
And
can
then
see. I want to see a whole bunch of female IDF soldiers twerking to that song.
it's just like the thing is, people could like the song and then learn about it. I've taught more people about what the watermelon means to Palestine than offended more people. So like I knew that was going to happen because people don't know, because we're part of a thing that people don't know. Now the next illest thing I did, which is my last song, which is With Everything That's Going On, What's Going On. I recorded in October, knowing I would release it later, which is it's basically checking in on the mental health and PTSD of everybody. It's like you could be at a thing and you could go to something where people are protesting and then look at somebody else. Like I saw a firefighter protesting in the Palestine rally in Times Square, and I'm like, that's a firefighter in New York. I'm not going to disrespect him. I really don't care, because I know if my house is on fire, I'm not going to be like, well, who do you vote? You know what I mean? I would need you to come save my house in Brooklyn. You know what I mean? And I
Do you
looked at
think
this thing.
if you had a big mezuzah on your front, do you think that he would be quick to run in there? Because
Yeah, I do.
there have been tales of nurses, that are of Palestinian descent that have denied, aid to Jewish people in hospitals.
And that is true. These
Horrible.
stories do come out, but for me, I know I live in the manner of like, I still always show respect to things that I respect. Hopefully that other people will see these little things in a video and say, yeah, he feels like this, but he still showed respect to people at the rally. Because I shot a music video at a Palestine rally, because I went to do interviews, and we're like, how many more times can I show somebody telling me to go back to where I came from? It's like, okay, people are exhausted of this, so let me do it in music, because I know that music is a dope thing. And the last time I went to Israel, the third time I went, the first 2 times there's still bombs coming in. The last time there weren't any missile sirens coming from Hamas, or there were stuff in the north, but I didn't get any sirens, and everything was really focused on the mental health of Israel. And I'm like, okay, now's the time to drop the song. I shot the video, and in the video, it's talking about some people get it right, some people get it wrong, including me, including you. So what we got to do? And that, I was like, okay, now I'm talking about everyone getting together. And I started making a lot of coexistence stuff with my boy Saz. My boy Saz is a Palestinian rapper. He's an Israeli. Yeah, he's in an Israeli Palestinian rap group. He's definitely prejudiced against. He's very outspoken against, the Israeli government. And there's plenty of Israelis that back him. And he's also pushed out of a lot of Palestinian circles because they're like, hey, we can't mess with Israelis because it messes up our business overseas where we go do shows. So he's coming to perform in the US. And I interviewed him. He has like almost 70 members of his family died in Gaza. And like, it's bananas. And like, that's my man. So I'm just going to support him, and I want to help him. And that's ultimately what I want to get to as like a human, is like, yo, even if we disrespect each other or we disagree, but if a truck is coming and you're about to get hit, I like to think that I'm the person that's going to pull you out, you know what I'm saying,
And
regardless. And then we'll finish our fight afterward, but I'm not going to get you hit. I'm not going to let you get hit by a truck. And like, the thing is, if you look at my videos, there's a huge disconnect. Like, I interviewed Ehud Olmert randomly, like a former prime minister. And, a lot of the Israelis are like, he's a criminal. And in my mind, I'm like, well, I'm a criminal too, so I don't mind interviewing him, whatever. I interview people that want to kill me. You want to see that, but you don't want to see somebody else who's anti-Netanyahu, but also is like advocating for hostages, and he got caught up in a bribery scheme. Like, all politics is dirty, right? And my thing is, can I show the hypocrisy on their side? And we're hypocrites too. It's like, it's fine, you know what I mean? But it doesn't mean that my cause isn't just, and I'm not allowed to stick up for my people. I know our shit is fucked up. You know what I'm saying? But it has nothing to do with.
You're not going to find a perfect representation, to represent anyone. It's like, listen, the fact that, our flaws is what make us perfect as a perfect role model, because you don't want somebody that hasn't been through shit or done shit. You know, like
Exactly.
that's not who we are. I mean, I know there are a lot of goody two shoe people out there. I'm not one of them. I mean, am I? You know, do I celebrate my past? Like, oh yeah, I did this fucked up shit, this thing, and that thing, and the other thing. Like, no, but it basically shaped me into who I
Who
am, and
you
if
are
I can,
today. Yeah.
yeah, if I can build off of that, then fuck yeah, But to come to a coexistence, is a pretty fucking difficult task at this point. I don't. I mean, I applaud everybody who tries, but I feel like I made a metaphor for taking a handball, a rubber ball, throwing it against the wall 100,000 times and expecting to see a dent on the wall or to make the wall fall. That's how I feel with every single post that I put out. I feel like it's just going out there and just firing right back. It's like, no damage on the wall whatsoever.
Someone asked me, how do you go out there and stay serene? And I'm like, I'm from the music industry, the underground rap world, which is filled with rejection and trying to talk to people that honestly really aren't
Don't fuck with
impressed
you.
by you, don't mess with you, which is weird. And what I learned is the people, we always really want people to support us that really don't support us anyway. So for instance, if an artist has a certain group of fans, they're always intrigued by these other cooler artists, right? But they're like, fail to cultivate your own fans. And what I've realized here is that like, I really created a community and I have an opportunity and a bunch of ears where I could educate a lot of people and I've gotten a lot of messages where saying like, you've given me the courage to just speak up for people my own way. It's like what I do is not for everybody, and I'm well aware of that. But what I do is definitely hip hop because I get out there, I rep my shit, and I tell people if I was Mexican, I'd probably be like the Mexican rapper. If I was Palestinian, I would probably be a Palestinian rapper. If I was French, I would be like the big French. I don't know, just something like I like to do. I liked repping myself, and I was taught that through hip hop, right? I was taught like
And
just rep
and you're
your
nice with it. Yeah, like I mean, let's be honest. Let's call it out. You're nice with
yeah.
it. So you know what I'm saying, you definitely got buzz.
And the thing is, I realized, and thank you, I realized that in the new song, I was like, with everything that's going on, what's going on, I made like little hints in the video of things that were actually false and things that were right and things that were wrong. And at a certain point, I realized, I've met people that have family members that are hostages. I've met people that have had relatives that were killed. I've had friends that, everyone had a friend. My mom's friend's grandchild was kidnapped and then returned. And, so I remember like during the war, everyone wants to find close proximity. And I thought, man, this would be a great opportunity to make a t-shirt. Everybody knows somebody who knows somebody. And that falls true in so many different aspects of what it's used for. And I realized, how much we don't know. And this is something when I'm out there and people are saying whatever they're learning, like the Hannibal Directive, the water pipeline, the humanitarian aid, and everyone comes up with different stories. And I
Yeah,
said,
occupation
I
of
could,
the airspace and the naval ports, and
yeah,
and the
and I'm like,
blockades.
you could learn whatever you want, but I said, you know what? To myself, like that's me, you would say, like like this is a great opportunity for me to learn more, and I need to learn more about my people. And that's why I really rep with Rudy, because Rudy's like, empower yourself. Like we should know more. We should know every single hostage's name. Like if someone's like, oh, this, I should know out of respect for every family, because you look at it, there's 133 hostages. You have the Hirsch family, where everyone knows the Hirsch family. You have the Bibas family. Everyone knows the Bibas family. You have, my friend Alana, she had 5 of her 6 members of the Cuneo family. And David is still there, the husband. But then you have Shlomo, he's the oldest. He's like the oldest hostage. And then you're like, well, there's every little family has their own little story. And
And
if
then
you
and then
advocate
and then a
this,
baby, like a 1-year-old fucking baby.
yeah. So people know that, but what about the less popular people that are there, like, and I had an experience.
Rudy's right. We should know all their names,
Yeah.
every single one of
And
them.
we don't. And that's okay, but you could learn it in 2 days, in a day and a half. Literally, you could just be like, let's get all that, And a lot of people are taking the time to go through, because it's like, dude, this isn't about me. Like, my new formed stuff is like, my job is to bring relief, comical relief, empowerment, and a breath of fresh air to anybody that's going through it. And that's been my message, honestly, since day one in anything of my music. So in this situation, it's definitely, if it is about them and it is about, staying alive, then, I need to make my best foot forward. And I think everybody should too. So people listen to this, they're like, oh, I mean, I'm going to go learn something a little bit about them. And it means a lot, because our lives are consumed in each war more and more through media, because we keep looking at stuff, to the point where people say, I'm like, how are you handling stuff? And people said, well, I don't go on the internet anymore. So I said, well, someone told me the other day, I go on the internet now just to look at your stuff because it makes me feel happy, and then I, get off of it. So then I'm like, well, maybe I have a little bit more of a responsibility to do that. And then when I look at, when I speak to people on the other side, and I don't think there's no, other side essentially, but I think, there's a
No, listen, there's another side. Listen, you're the respectful one. There's another side.
yeah,
There is another side. So
right.
we don't need to
No,
be politically correct over here. I mean,
right.
whoever's like, trust me, this is not going to get millions of views. So like, we're not going to
Nah,
get 10
so
with
basically the 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 aspect is like, I need to show people that are like, man, like, there's a lot of loss of life and innocent civilians on this side. And if you talk to someone like my father comes from 2 wars in Israel, and he just doesn't feel the same way that I would maybe feel. But my father's also in his late 70s, so he's a little bit more removed. But it is nice to work with somebody that's Palestinian, and like, my man got a story too, and he has grandparents and stuff, and it gives other people like a little bit of sigh of relief, and they get to share this other content to somebody else that might break through, telling different stories of Israel. When I was in Israel, I'm like, all right, I'm going to go to the Hebrew Israelite village. Why? Because I could go up to a Hebrew Israelite screaming in New York and be like, I was there, I know about Ben Ami and the leaders of your community. And I spent an entire day out there, and I'm like, I can't wait. I want to tell all the stories of Israel, and for good and bad, if I can. And this is just me like becoming a rapper all over again with a little mic. And so in my music video, I was doing interviews and then I'm doing rapping. Then I'm like, yo, this is ill. This is
that was
dope.
dope. It was dope.
And I've developed other shows with it. And I have a new show called Live from the Dreidel that's like ill in Crown Heights. And it's super Black Jewish. Like, definitely, it's gonna bring mad different kinds of people together. It's gonna be like my little late night show that just showcases a little bit of Jewish pride and tries to swag it out a little bit and just have some fun, And I think there's space now for all different kinds of things. But for me, I realized that I do have a duty to like just show up and kind of, I don't know, do the best I can for myself and also just for a bigger group of people. And I experienced it all when I went to Israel, and people started stopping me in the street being like, thank you, thank you. You don't
They're like,
understand.
I know you, Kosha Dillz.
Yeah, I went to my parents' hometown in Tivon, and it's like 15,000 people, and I posted on TikTok, and everyone's like, oh my God, like, you're here. And I met like 8 kids in the town center, like off TikTok, that were like 16, that found me. And I thought to myself, yo, this is crazy, because as an American Jew, right, you're like always trying to be accepted by Israelis, and they're like, you're too American. And then you
Yep.
go there, and I said, there was a huge disconnect that people don't really get in these worlds, that they don't really understand what's happening here. And we also don't understand what's happening there, as it is on the ground, and the protests within Israeli culture, also while being very, very pro-Israel for our own lives, but in a different context. Like, they're protesting against the government with a bunch of Israeli flags. Over here, they would just attack. They don't just see Israeli flags, they would just attack. So that is my unique story, I guess, for the war, is that to really understand what's happening, you have to make a huge effort when you're there to really grasp stuff. And over here, there's a disconnect, because it's just 2 different things happening at the same time, and everyone's on to the same team, I guess you could say, and
It's really it's lack of effort of acquiring the information on 2 different fronts. One, there's a whole bunch of American Jews here that, besides not knowing our history, like really knowing it, rather than, like, I was trying to put a video out yesterday where, one of the biggest problems that I think that faced with us in America is we live by this. They tried to kill us, we survived, let's eat. So rather than dwelling on our story and everything that we went through with all the persecution and the murders, the terrorized, the pogroms, to the Holocaust, to the, even going back, thousands of years to, the Persians, the Babylonians, then everyone the Romans, the Greeks, the Hellenizations and everything like that. Nobody, all the American Jews have forgotten all of that history. So that's one thing that they don't know. And I guess they're ignorant to actually learn about. Second thing is what actually goes on in Israel on the ground with the government, with the war, with the conflict, with the people, and they choose not to really. I call it willfully blind, because they're just like, okay, yeah, I'm Jewish when it's convenient for me, and I can't fucking stand those people at all. And like, I'd really like to smack their parents, because it's really their fault, because they should have raised them a little bit better. But it's lack of wanting to know the information, and that's why we're in a little bit of a pickle.
And the thing is, you can't really. I believe in attraction, not promotion, right? So it's like, I'm not trying to sell my family. I come from a family my brother became an Orthodox Jew after, being in another marriage, and was not married to a Jewish woman. My other brother married not Jewish, and was Mr. Israel, and very, like, I guess we grew up Israeli, and he knew Hebrew, and my brother knows Hebrew, and that was it. Like, that was Jewish enough, what I mean? But now just the context has changed, and in the scope of stuff, and it's like, you gotta just make an effort. And the thing is, to attract people that you love and care about into this world, right, and to, like, this stuff, you have to make an effort. And it's different. It's like when you promoted yourself, and this Wendy Day would probably support something like this. Like, when you would show up to something like a music event, and somebody has the ability to like, you really want to connect with, you don't go there and keep talking about yourself and tell them to get on your stuff. You kind of go support them. You kind of be like, yo, I'm supporting what you're doing. I'm buying a ticket. I'm like, yo, and if you want to really work with them, like, why wouldn't you go out of your way to support them, instead of saying, yo, I rap too? You know what I mean? Yo, I do this too.
Because sometimes it ain't about you.
It's not, and this thing is not about me. It's about an entire general. So it's an entire general scope of things. And this is just in life. People need to learn more in general. Like, if anything, it's taught me that, like, man, I have such a great opportunity, because I'm in places like I'm playing a festival with, I'm still playing festivals with, like, Talib Kweli, and like accent, like, people are, I always have opportunities to speak with people that I know through hip hop, because I've earned the respect to get into these worlds. And it's like, okay, so you should know what you know, and learn more, and also
I would love to
understand.
have you and Talib on my show so we can talk about things, because there's a couple of things that
I
I'd like
don't
to talk to him. I don't think he would come on.
No, but this is the thing. This is the thing, right? And, like, I speak to listen, I'll tell you this story real quick. And I don't know how much time we have left, but
We got a couple of minutes. We're gonna wrap up soon. So, because I got a
but
couple of things I got to
me
go
and my
ahead.
boy Kevin from Hamza Club, and another homegirl of ours, unapologetic Judean. She's dope on Instagram. We all went to a comedy show, and Dave Chappelle showed up, and Chris Rock. And it was ill, because people didn't like I thought, oh, this is everyone's, has an opportunity to just whip their phones out, and it was a surprise show. And I kind of peeped that. I was like, yo, this is about to go down. It was just random draw. Like, I was doing a speaking gig and performance in LA, and right next door was the Comedy Store. So I went there, and Dave was asking questions about, like, is it true that, he was, Dave Chappelle. And I said, yo, I'm Jewish, I'm Israeli. He's like, I got a question. I was like, I'm a Wild 'N Out. Like, what's up? Like, and he's like, oh, you're one of us. You understand me. So point being is, anytime Dave Chappelle opens his mouth, people are going to try to cancel him, because the world doesn't, if he talks about Israel, people are like, woo, boo, hate, based on his thing. Why would you ever want to publicly talk about something that, if that's the reaction you're always going to get at your show? And I said, you know what? Let's just talk. And he really appreciated somebody just talking to him and the whole show became about us. And she was screaming at him. She's Israeli as well, and she's screaming at him. My boy's next to her from Hamza Club, and he's like, oh man, this is wild. And the show became about us. And then it was like 40 people there, and Chris Rock is there. So it's me, Chris Rock, Dave Chappelle, and two of my friends, and about 30, 40 other lucky people that were just chilling in a very empty show in LA. Like, it wasn't like the high level comics at a Comedy Store. And people were like, no, that was back and forth. But Dave felt like he was finally able to ask questions. You just see how like uneducated he has been, or educated on one side of things. And he just doesn't want babies to die. Like, I'm like, and I respect that. Like, you know what I mean? But the thing is, if we want to make a step forward and stuff, especially with regular people, as much as I document my excursions, there are tons of it that isn't documented, because people run up on me, and we start talking about it yesterday at the park during the sun thing. That was it. Like, people just ran up on me because they knew me, and there were two kids that we talked, and I was like, I'm not gonna put these kids on camera. They're so uneducated about certain things and certain facts. And that's okay, because one kid was Palestinian, one kid was Muslim, and the Palestinian kid didn't know a lot. And I don't really want to expose him like that, because it doesn't help us if I just make people feel dumb. It doesn't necessarily help us.
There's a certain way to present that information, especially when, and I hate to use the word indoctrinated, because I don't know where he actually came from in terms of if he was raised in Gaza or if he was,
his family was in Rafah. I thought to myself, like, I'd rather him have a good experience, because he's probably not going to talk to a lot of other Jewish people in this nice capacity. He's going to come up to other kids that are going to be taunted and etc. But I want him a nice experience, because like, it's going to happen again. It's natural in New York. The Dave Chappelle thing, he appreciated it, shook my hand, said, stay in touch. I gave him some merch. And I was like, you know what? I'd rather him remember me that than me be the guy that films it and it goes to TMZ. And what does that really do? It doesn't really, it's not going to like blow me up, or it would just be another thing for him because he don't care. And the fact that he doesn't care is the reason why he is as big as he is. He doesn't give a fuck. I mean, he's one of the best comics in the world, if not the best
in the world.
Yeah, exactly. Hands down. So, okay, you're Muslim and that's awesome. But like, it's not going to benefit me. I want to be the one person that you have a better experience with. So when people say, are you afraid that you lost followers and stuff, like, I don't need to worry, gain or lose followers when I'm having real interactions with some of the biggest people regarding the subject, because I do feel that my experience is valid, and I stand on what I say. So I don't need to wear a mask. I'm ready to talk about it if you want to. And if not, that's okay too. Because you know what? I understand people have a lot of emotions and they don't want to spend their day talking about this stuff. Because I've been so experienced with this in my career, I've experienced people liking me and unliking me during Israel conflicts since the beginning of my career, since Israel at 60. We're at Israel at 76. A lot of people just jumped on board in 23. A lot of people before jumped on in 21. A lot of other people jumped on in 2014, checked out, come back. But everybody in the music industry eventually circles back to me and say, bro, I get it now. I get it now. And I wouldn't be like this unless my entire family was Israeli. So for me, it was just for me, it's like, whatever. I'm very authentic to myself to the best of my ability. And that's like,
and it's a very unique story and it's very authentic. That's why I had to have you on the pod. That's when you called me the other day. I'm like, I got to get him right now before he's like, all right, I'm in LA, I'm in Israel and stuff like that. But it's an absolute pleasure to speak to you and for you to be able to take this time to, really dive into everything that you've been through. I'd love to set up, another interview where we can invite Rudy, we can invite your Palestinian rapper friend.
He's Rudy's sick. He loves
he's all over the place.
He loves going into the lion's den and talking to people that hate him. And it's a very special tactic that some of us Jewish people have that we love. They're like, oh, you hate me? I'm like, let's talk. Let's talk about it. I don't know what's wrong with you, but if you hate me, I'm obsessed with you.
Hey, listen, it's great. But listen, tell people where they can find you. I mean, obviously, if they don't know who you are, they're living under a rock. But shout out anything you have to, and then we'll close up.
Yeah, everything online is Kosha Dillz, KOSHA DILLZ. If you want to see, the Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, Kosha Dillz 826. My website's koshadillzworld.com. If I'm available, for speaking and performing. And I have my tour dates on bands in town. I do comedy in New York. If you want to reach out, it's rapperfriends@gmail, or you could text my text line 732-335-7573. I got a community text. Very proud of that. So, it's me. It's one of those machines, fan machines. Not like the Diddy one. Yeah, my music's on Spotify and YouTube, and dive into my catalog. I got songs with Modest Yahoo. I have songs with various people, even Cascade in the EDM world. And I think, the biggest thing, if I could leave you with a message about anti-Semitism or being successful in that world, is successful in the attempt at destroying bigotry, is be successful in pop culture and your own merit, earn the respect from peers all around the world, and then come into this field, and where people will listen to you based on what you've accomplished in other fields. Like, I know if I have different points of view with people, but I respect them in other acts of their field, that they would know, hey, like Wendy Day, I'm sure knows plenty of people that disagree with me on certain things, or even us, but because we respect each other based on the things that we've accomplished in our lives, that we're always willing to sit down and talk about that, and then wish everyone a good life, and we want the best for everybody. And yeah, I'm really excited that you had me here, and hope you guys check out the new music, and I'm gonna keep making it, and that's it.
Yes, sir. Listen, I appreciate you, brother. So I'm
Yeah.
gonna leave you with a quote that I end all of my shows with. This is how I live my life. I'd like you to live your life, as well as everyone at home. Please, we are all just here for a small cup of coffee. I'm just trying to drink it while it's still hot. I'm your boy. I'm JopauL. We've been rocking out with Kosha Dillz on the Verified Podcast. We are brought to you by TMTFunding.info. When your bank says no, they say yes. The best in alternative financing. It's your boy JopauL for the Verified Podcast. Signing out. Peace out, baby.
Nice.